Hi everyone, welcome back to Changing Times. Thank you for the subscription, thank you for sharing, thank you for the feedback, thank you for reaching out, thank you for loving this channel and for growing with us. And surely we are going somewhere. We'll grow and thrive and, celebrate the losses that we go through, the different losses that we go through. Last time we talked about the guilt that happens when we go through the loss and expounded on the emotion of what we actually can be guilty about in the face of our losses. Today, I would like us to talk about the thoughts pertaining to our guilt. And then we would like to also look at fear in the face of our loss. So, when we talk about thought processes in our guilt of loss, there is two things. There is the external conversations that go on around us, but there is also the internal conversations that happen inside of our minds that sometimes make the guilt look either bigger or smaller to us, and the magnitude of these conversations will determine exactly how soon we will go through the guilt. Now, there is also the mind when it comes to experiencing different overwhelming situations. The internal conversations are within us and are for us. They can be very confusing, especially when there is other things going on in our lives. In the face of our loss, there is other things that go on. We go through, funerals. We go through reestablishment if it's not loss of an individual. We go through these different, life must happen. So the different ways in which life must happen also affects how these internal conversations actually turn out. They can be very negative, they can be positive. When they're positive, they help us to move on faster. When they're negative, they set us back a lot. But we know one thing, that yes, even if they're positive or negative, we shall thrive. We shall go through them if we only allow ourselves. And being realistic is a very good thing, because realistic means that yes, I think like this. What is my reality? My reality determines whether or not I do something about how I feel. Like I said, they can be positive, they can be negative. I've had some negative feelings towards the guilt. I've had feelings where I blamed myself about losing time, so much so that I was set back. I had to go back in the presence of God to ask God to lift me up from this feeling because it was consuming me. While I knew that whether or not I was early, it could have only taken God, I knew one thing, that physically as a person, there are things that, affect me in the face of my loss. But reality is, loss has happened, and the only way to go is up. The only way to go is forward. The external conversations also happen in the midst of our internal conversations. The external conversations are those that people around us will, bring about in the face of our losses. Many people are not aware of our guilt. And sometimes other people are also guilty about something we don't know because we don't articulate these things. The goal usually is to blame someone for the loss. Now, this blame may be lying on you as a person who has lost more but also is experiencing your own guilt. While you have control over your internal conversations, you have no control over your external conversations. What for me I decided to do was to realize that I can only pay so much attention to external conversations. I also knew that I can only attach so much emotion to what others have to say about me or the person who has died. So I decided to block, and blocking meant that I stopped hearing these things. I worked on not allowing myself to experience pain from people's attitudes, from people's words, from people's conversations. And I also told myself internally whether or not I felt bad, guilty about, and negative about the things that were happening. I knew that loss had happened and the positive thoughts would only propel me to go through a day at a time, which was also difficult. So I didn't want to compound it with the negative thoughts. It is not very easy, but it takes determination. And for me, I went ahead to even delete numbers, delete people from my life, delete numbers, because I realized that the more I interacted with negativity, the more I set myself back on the journey of recovery. It may not be easy, but it's not something that you can't do. When you have control over something, you will have something to do about it. If you have no control over it, just let it, because you can't do anything about it. Some battles are not worth fighting. Guilt is real, but it won't kill you if you don't let it. It will send you into a depression, and it can do many other things, but you can only allow it so much. There is fear that is tied to the loss in face of guilt. And fear is usually the fear of the unknown. We worry about things we don't know because we want so much to be in control of our lives, in control of our situations, okay? But if I don't know something and I worry about it, how much do I change of it? Now, here's what happened for me. I was worried, I was fearing life without this man. I was fearing life as a parent, a single parent of 3. I was fearing just doing life after 12 years of being in a relationship, and now I don't have one, and I'm thinking, what is it that I'm going to do without? But I realized that this fear is for me. And while I feared the things that I didn't know them anyway. I only needed to experience life. I went into a silent place and realized that I couldn't do much. I only lived a day of parenting, a day of my single life, a day to hope for better. And the more I lay into this situation and space, I got ministering that God has plans. The one that takes brings. But because his plans are of good and not of evil, I knew that the things that would come ahead of me were only going to be better. There is no way I was going to go through major loss and experience major other things. I somehow, deep down my heart, I knew that that's not how he works. So as I experience my journey, I know that I have seen greatness. I have experienced great friendships. I've experienced supply that is beyond my imagination. I've experienced life better. And I know above all that whether or not I feared death, it became real. And because it became real, I can go through it. So the fear that I had before was demystified by the reality of death itself. One thing I encourage us to do is to depend on that being that is beyond us, is to hope beyond hope that things will get better. But they won't get better if we don't allow them to come. Lastly, if we become overwhelmed, if we experience overwhelming feelings about our fear and guilt, let's know one thing, that there is nothing that is uncommon to man that can happen to us. Therefore, someone has gone ahead of us and someone is looking at us. Let's be the best that we can be in terms of resources. Let's seek out help. Talk to someone. Someone has gone beyond you. Someone has gone after you. There is someone who has this information. It may not necessarily be a therapist. There is people with experience. Until I reached out, I didn't know how much help I could get. But you have to allow yourself to be helped. There is many ways in which I feared the words that came out of my mouth. I feared the way I'd react. And there is this one person who I used to ask, I want to say this and this, because I had formal conversations, formal communications to send out. And I was not living life alone. I'm a parent, I have in-laws, I have friends, I have workmates, I have all these things. So I needed to be appropriate in my actions. And I always ask this person, this is what I think, this is what I feel. Should I say it like this? And this person used to help me differentiate between my thoughts and my actions and what the right thing to do is. We can't know all these things because our emotions will not allow us to think straight. Talk to someone I have benefited from talking to someone. I've supported people, so I know exactly what it feels like to seek external resources. Depend on what God has availed and hope for a better future. I have a lot of hope because He who took actually will bring better and has already surprised me. And I know that He can do the same for you. So until next time, stay well, stay positive, hope for better, and let's do this. Let's thrive in the face of our losses and know that one thing we can do is to get better and rise. Thank you very much. Remember, you can reach out for help, and you can send a message. You can ask for support. I am a therapist, so I will be able to give support, and when I'm not able to, I'll definitely have you referred. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful time. Changing times. Let's do this.